Let's talk about Get Out. Let's go to Charles. He's calling from Chicago. He's on line 2. Charles, you're on with Dick Gregory.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carl. You're the best talk show host for black folks throughout the diaspora, and that would be an understatement. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And
thank you, my brother. And Carl, you deserve all of that. Bless you and your family, brother.
Yes, yes. And Mr. Gregory, I had the highest respect for you because when I went, my wife and I went to see that movie, I came out, I said, this thing was nothing but about pedophilia against black folks. Trying to tell
them one now, because we're not talking about Get Out. We're talking about the one that carried the war. Okay?
Right. The Moonlight.
Well, now, and the picture they used was that little black child. Remember? That's all you saw on the advertising. Until you go there and then you see this piece of filth. Huh? With nothing but black folks in it. Okay? And I wonder how many of them was American black folks, huh? The ones that somebody said, why don't we hire black folks here? Well, all of them are like you, brother. All of them are like you, Sam Jackson. And I wondered why it was at that level. I'm the one that told the world King didn't die on the balcony. They smothered him to death in the hospital, okay? And then look at that picture as we get close to April the 4th. Ask yourself a question. King laying on the balcony. How come one of them black folks didn't stoop down? Huh? Why? How'd they know it wasn't going to be a second bullet, or did they know? Okay? And so, again, let me just shut up and listen to what you said about the movie. The movie was great, but it wasn't the typical movie of snatching bodies. All the drive-by shoots, all that crap going on in Chicago is about that. I'm a father. Somebody come home and said 2 of my sons were shot down on the corner coming back from the movie, and we call it a drive-by. Well, what kind of Negroes is that? Will drive-by shoot innocent black, but don't shoot the women, because men's organs sell 1,000 times more as black women, okay? Well, y'all can talk all that shit you want and talk all that stuff you want, but you don't have facts. I don't have no problem with it, but you don't have the facts. And so until, like I said, me and Carl been talking about stuff for 20 years. I never talked about it on the radio, because if you can't prove it by black or white folks, you ain't going to believe it. And so this is what I'm saying. All of this crap go down. And so when you sit, you don't go to the movie to be educated, but you get on the radio and talk stuff. You don't get on TV. And they got black folks as government agents that sell that filth along with everybody else. Hear this again. When that Cedric the Enter said in the script a white boy wrote for King wasn't nothing but a punk. And Rosa Parks didn't do nothing. She was just too tired to move her big, fat, white ass. Okay, black ass, okay? That's what he said. And then 3 weeks later, he in the White House. Not that he did it for the white, but white folks didn't see anything wrong with it, okay? Had he said that about Mother Teresa, in a week he'd have been dead. Had he said that about Queen Elizabeth, in a week he'd been dead. I've been talking about drugs in the white community, and now they couldn't hide it back, okay? Now they couldn't hide it back. So when you see these commercials running now, they ain't for you. The number one drug out state in America is Utah. Ain't no black folks there. Them folks become church in the Bible's womb. This is a game they play. Okay, as we talk today, when you woke up this morning to now, 81% of all the OD drugs was white folks in America. Then it goes up after midnight. Why? Because your brain tells your heart to keep beating while you sleep. The drug they put out there now in the white community shuts that part of your brain down. So after midnight, drug addiction in the white community increases 93%, okay? But you can go look at it all you want. The people that know what's going on, they got worries about what you're saying.
Right. So,
yes.
What's your question for Greg, Charles?
Well, okay, yeah. Thank you, Carl. My question is, when the sister called in, Sister Sarah was talking about the DNA, and about she didn't want to actually see that. But wouldn't you say, Brother Dick Gregory, and thank you for all your experience you conveyed to black folks with your experience and disseminating truthful information. But wouldn't you say there is some truth to our people going to Egypt and finding history? And second of all, the finding out about who we are or in the continent itself, and also,
if you got to go to Egypt to find out who you are, then go to the University of Michigan. Most of the stuff we go see, they got it over here already. Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe I didn't put it in the context I was trying to convey, but I think it is some relevancy is relevant for us to go and because we've been slapped around and said we come from nothing, we're nobody. That's what I'm trying to convey.
Well, how can you believe you come from nobody when we sit up in our churches and talk about God made us? Okay, all the stuff like that, but a conflict. Okay, I'm saying not, and that's what I told you. Y'all listen. Go, not while the show's on. Go look in the mirror, and that thing you call your nose is the pyramid. There's something wrong with it when you think them crackers over there made it, and the same God that made the moon, the sun, and the stars made your nose. Okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I say that because I love my mother. My mother told me Santa Claus was a white boy and she was buying the toys. Huh? That's my mother. That's the piece of craziness that raised me, okay? My mother told me that. My mother was the first one and said, "Monkey, you better get out of here." I look at the zoo. I don't look like a monkey. I ain't got hair all over my body. My legs is long. Monkey's legs is short. That's what I'm talking about. Not to prove nothing on this show. Okay? You said I'm upset when they advertise something on radio and TV and say, "Well, Google this." My grandmother can't Google. Okay? They tell me this is black folks that you want to hide something from a black, put it under the book. Do the research. And for the last 120 years, black folks spend a bigger portion of their salary than white folks do, okay? But we talking about, and you black folks out there listening, you know, back in those days, black folks had every encyclopedia that came out. The white man would come and celebrate. They would pay for it over the course of the year. And then you will let some cracker tell you that you don't spend nothing for reading. Well, where our PhDs come? Where Carl Nelson and them come from? They just learn how to read. Where Kathy Hughes come from? They just learn how to read. Huh? That's what I'm saying. And I know because I grew up with it. Huh? By the time I found out that Washington and Jefferson owned slaves, they told me the good stuff. I didn't know they was killed dogs.
All right, let's just give him a chance to ask the question, Greg. Charles, your question again.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. My question is, a lot of people put down DNA, and like Walter Williams came on the stage and said he believed DNA was a hoax, and I was in Chicago, and I talked to Umar Johnson in a forum, and he said that he didn't believe in DNA himself. That is Dr. Umar Johnson. But how can people say that, Dick Gregory, when the Central Park Five in New York City was found to be not guilty due to DNA, and as countless of other brothers and sisters have came out of prison and went into prison due to the DNA analysis.
Sure.
Molecular biologists. Do you agree with me on that?
I'm not to believe you. You don't need me to validate nothing. You already been validated by white folks on that. A black person wasn't the first one that said the DNA. It was the white folks that said that in New York. And Trump was one of them. Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm saying. Okay.
That was all the question I had, that it is a valid science. That's all I'm saying. And
all right.
A lot of others.
Thanks, Charles. We're going to keep moving because we're racing the clock here, and Greg's got to go, and Dr. Williams is going to be here. 800-450-7876. Charles, Benjamin, I'm sorry, is calling us on line 5 from Los Angeles. Benjamin?
Thank you, Benjamin, you and the family. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much to you, Gregory and Carl Nelson. I have not seen the movie, but I can say that everything that's made in the movie industry is used as a construct against us in what is called social science.
Yeah, so what's the question?
My question is, do you think that's the case?
Not just us, all white folks, Indians, everybody. In the old days, at the early beginning of the football, the biggest football crowd was Dallas Cowboys and the D.C. Indians, Cowboy Indians. How many people don't see that, huh? When you look at King Kong, King Kong ain't about no gorilla. It's about Jack Johnson, the greatest heavyweight fighter in the history of the planet, him and the white woman. That's why the movie stars out in New York. New York, they ain't got no trees, they ain't got no bananas. Madison Square Garden, the boxing capital of the world, is there. They put a lot of stuff together and you don't know it because it's coded. White folks don't even know it. That's what I'm saying. You don't go to the movie to find out what day your child was born. That's for entertainment, and it reaches from the highest to the lowest. Okay, the black folk now couldn't read or write, huh?
Well, Greg, you go to the movies. Mark from Anaheim, the same thing. I was telling folks, you guys look for things special. We don't know what to look for. Darren as well, because you guys are researchers. We go to the movies basically just for entertainment and for escapism. So what do you look for when you go to a movie?
I just go in there when I read the papers. I spend $1,000 a week for newspapers. Ain't none of it no good. I look for the crack in the fabric, okay? And then from that, I call my people in, huh? When a Malaysian Airlines, I'm going to teach you if this white boy told you it disappeared. I'm going to waste my time teaching you. I don't get on this show. I give information. I don't care if you pick it up or not. And then 20 years later, when they tell you about Ferguson, 5 years later, that was a white boy. That been knowing that. I called most of the researchers around the world. And I said, man, I have no doubt that hidden colors happen. But I can't find nobody in the world that know they was making it, huh? How you going to make something this good and this belief and nobody know it was being made? What's that about? Have no doubt that they did that and other people did that. Okay? Why now? What's that about? So that's what I'm looking for, the crack in the fabric. And what make this show so good, you can't find a crack in the fabric. His genius is not the information he gives you, it's how he find these people. That white folks hide them, don't even let you know they exist. How do they find them? Okay, that's what I'm saying. And so when you stop and think about the information, if you didn't listen to nothing else, but listen to this show and then have people let you know, look it up. It's all there. And then you find things, and then your life changes. Everything changes. Kathy Hughes, she don't get the credit she get, but who cares? You know, she'll have to be validated. That's what I'm saying. Carl don't have to be validated. I knew him before he came this way. That same brilliant mind. Okay? Thank you.
Benjamin's out there in L.A. as well. Benjamin, do you have a follow-up question, or is that it?
Yes. Everyone do their research that their thing about DNA is scary to them because people...
Right, hold that thought right there, Benjamin, because we got to take a break here. We're running late, and I'll let you finish your thought on the other side. And also, Dr. Wimbush is going to join us right here on 8. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I guess this is Dick Gregory. Momentarily, we're going to be speaking with Morgan State University professor Ray Wimbush. We're talking about basically the same thing, the movie Get Out. I hope you've seen that movie, and then you can comment on some of the things that was in that movie. As I mentioned, people like Dick Gregory, they look at it differently, as well as Mark from Anaheim. They research, and Dan Muhammad, and these guys are researchers, so they see it differently from how we see it. Before we left, we're speaking with Benjamin out in Los Angeles. So, Benjamin, I'm going to let you finish up your follow-up question or comment for Dick Gregory. Is Benjamin there on line 5? Okay, I'm not hearing Benjamin. Okay,
yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You hear me, Cole?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Appreciate it. The reason they're so frightened of people of color is because we contained multiple strand DNA. Multiple strand DNA. And with that ability, we're able to naturally remote view while their institutions need naval intelligence.
All right. Thank you for that. You know, remote viewing, that came up with the Ferguson case, Greg. I know you can get a chance to talk about that, but you came on here right after that thing went down, and you said that it just didn't add up. And now 2 days ago, they're showing that a new video with bolsters what you were saying back then, that it didn't go down on that. It wasn't a robbery. So I want to get your thoughts now that you've been validated. I know you don't need this video to validate what you said, but you did say call it 2 years ago, and now it's been seen on tape.
Let me start it off this way. You're going to have Dr. B on, right?
Yeah, Dr. B will be here tomorrow.
Okay. Y'all listen to that. The world would have never heard of him had it not been for this show. One of the brilliant minds on the he didn't start off with nutrition and eating good and all that. He was a millionaire. He was the one. What did he invent? Hip hop?
Yeah, he was in the music business. That's where he made his money.
And he found out he was going to die. And something changed. And he went around the world. When you hear him, you ain't going to hear him on NBC or CBS. Everybody walk up to me and they say, wait, man, you see all these health practitioners is dying. They're being murdered. Why? This white boy's trying to deal with population control, and you talking about eating good, right? That's what this stuff is about. But how did you come to that when you don't know it? Here's a brother sit here now, and he said, hey, man, let me tell you about DNA. You know, the black folks knew that 1 billion years ago. They didn't have laboratories. They didn't have all that stuff. How did they know it? And then now they're going to come up here now and trick stuff. How many of these folks do the research? I knew that King didn't die on the balcony. NBC didn't know that. NBC didn't know nothing about that. I know Ron Brown died from a bullet in the back of his head. How did I know it? The white folks brought me the autopsy that was doing. 7 white folks, and I cried because had that been me doing the autopsy and a white guy got killed, I don't know if I'd have brought the DNA, okay? So when we sit and we look and see this, and then they bring me the pictures, the plane never crashed. And who did it? Who did it? President Clinton, who y'all are stupid enough and ungodly enough to believe he the black this and the black that. He ain't nothing but a piece of junk. But y'all don't know that because you don't qualify to know it because you don't listen to the people that you raised with. Right there on the farm. Right there, y'all out there singing a song. Before I be a slave, I be buried. Mother, you singing that while you picking cotton. But when you talk about the people, when they say don't use the word nigger no more, did anybody tell you that it wasn't one black person in the room when that decision was made? Did anybody tell you that? All the black leaders, they wasn't there. So that's what that's about. You can turn it on and get it for free. I listen to stuff on calls, so some of the stuff I hear, I wouldn't drink of it, but I go buy me a case of it to support him and throw it away on the way home, okay? But y'all be sitting talking that stuff, and you don't back it up at all. You ain't supposed to back it up. I don't have no problem with that. It's when you come out here talking crazy talk and ask where the research comes from. You ask Carl how some of the biggest cats in sports would come to me when they had to sign a contract to get the drug. I would get the drugs out your body in 24 hours. I wouldn't tell you this had it not been for Marion Barry in his book. Said the reason I went to jail and I could come back and run for mayor, Dick Gregory. He flew in town, put me in a bathtub of water, and I went to take the test the next day and they didn't find nothing. That's what this is about. Who are you? What God? If you wouldn't take a child, an alcoholic, or drunk, or nothing, and you wouldn't have one child that'd be the most brilliant thing and another stupid, then what makes you think God did that? You don't need education to figure out certain things. And so this is what it's about. And so when you listen to this show and you hear people, what was it, Miles Davis' brother down and call into the show when them white men mess with them sisters at the swimming pool, and he blamed it on the mothers, huh? He blamed it on the mother and then said on the show, my mother, we used to walk and talk, and I said, not Miles. Miles, I know Miles. And what you telling me what your mother did, he didn't affect Miles, so he wasn't in the group. And this is what the game is. You let anybody on the show, and that's your right to listen to what makes it easy with you. If that's what you pick it. But it ain't going to be right, and it ain't going to be right because so-and-so said it, and you dealing with top minds of the best schools in the world. And they write theology books for to come there, and most of that stuff's a lie. They don't know it. Most of it's a lie. They changed it.
We know you have to run, and we got Dr. Wimbush. And so I'm glad that you're going to be.
Brother.
Yeah, I know you're going to be in Baltimore because you've got so much information that we didn't get in touch on today. You're going to be at Metropolitan United Methodist Church, 7 o'clock Saturday. It starts at 7. As I mentioned, the gates open at 6. And that's Metropolitan United Methodist Church in Baltimore. So, folks, if you get a chance, go up there and see Dick Gregory, because a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, we can't because we were out of time. And even if we did have the time, we couldn't talk about it on the radio. So he'll be talking about it in the flesh if you go see him on Saturday up in Beemore. Greg, thanks again.
Thank you, brother. And tell the family and everybody hello. And bless you in the show. And Kathy Hughes for opening up a platform where the world can hear you, because you can be heard all over the world. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Love you.
All right. 800-450-7870. Just bring in Professor Ray Wimbush. Dr. Wimbush, welcome to WOL Radio.
Hey, Carl, how you doing? Good. Always good to hear Brother Dick. It's always good to hear him.
He's got so much information. It's just coming out of his fingertips. I mean, you can mention a name to Dick Gregory, whether it be Marlon Brando, Marvin Gaye. You just think of anybody. He's got a story to tell. I think it's got so much information. That's why I'm glad he's going to be up in Baltimore this weekend. If you call in, we'll give you more information about that. But we were talking about the movie Get Out. And, we start off by talking about Sam Jackson, because, Sam came out and was critical of the fact that they used a black Brit in the starring role. And he even stretched it a little bit and said that in Selma, because they used a black Brit for Martin King and Coretta Scott King. And some of our callers think they didn't really nail the performances. There's some nuances that the Brits couldn't really capture that African Americans have and can display. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I love Sam Jackson to death. You might also add to that list in Moonlighting, the mother was played by a black Brit, and that's been common in the past few years. Look, the experience of black Brits, black Brazilians, black Americans, black Canadians is, like John Henry Clark said, it just depends upon where they drop this off on the boat. The experience of all Africans are the same. I think that Sam, I don't want to say he got it wrong, but I think that he has to look at the fact that the black acting in Britain is very limited. I mean, you talk about a racist motion picture industry. You ought to go to London and see what you can and cannot see. I think that we've got to start looking at each other. And I think Sam does that in general as African people all over the place. Sure, the black British experience is somewhat different. But I read an interview, the brother that starred in Get Out responded to Sam by saying his experiences, he talked about the Brixton riot and other things that happened there just a few years ago. It's very much the same. And so, well, I would have liked to have seen a black American actor. I think a good actor, you forget about their background if they're black, regardless of where they are from. So I didn't have any problems with that. I really did.
I didn't have a problem with it, too. I'll be honest with you. I think, we talk about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, because one of the things she says, we have to be careful when they start using us to fight against each other.
Exactly.
That's the system of white supremacy. And I'm trying to get my audience to understand that. I don't have a beef if you're a black Christian or a black Muslim, you're a Hebrew Israelite, you're a Moor, you're from Chicago, you're a Washingtonian. All of that doesn't matter. If you're a black gay, the thing is, we've got to separate all those political differences, and we've got to come together, because the oppressors come together on us all the time, and they count on the fact that we're going to be so divided. And I'll share this with you, because I know you know Dr. Welton well as well. I was talking about the black upper class, the overachievers, and I was saying that they need really do more for the rest of us. They can do more, especially where in our audience in Prince George's County, where most of the black upper echelon live. And she pulled me to the side and says, you know what? That's when you start. You get caught up in the system of racism and white supremacy. That's when you start doing the oppressor's work, tearing down each other. And that's what I thought about when I heard that Sam Jackson went after this brother who was a Brit, and he's black, because that's what the oppressor does. And I'm trying to get our folks to understand that way. If you're doing the work the oppressor wants, then you're caught up in the matrix. I want to get your
You
thoughts
may
on
as well
that.
do this exact thing. I think that in the film Get Out, that silver spoon is more symbolic. I mean, she was hypnotized. She hypnotized the brother with a silver spoon. And many of us, as you mentioned, I don't want to say everybody in PG County, but the black middle, upper class oftentimes is seduced by that silver spoon.
Right. Hold that thought right there, because I want you to dig a little deeper on that as well for our audience. We've got to take a quick break. We've got to check the traffic and weather in the DMV. You know, some schools, many public charter schools, that will be being closed tomorrow. But let's get an update on the traffic and the weather right here on AM 1450, also FM 95.9. Wimbush is actually working on a book about Dr. Wilson, and she's going to actually celebrate her birthday, if you will, or born day, coming up this weekend. And I know there's going to be some events. But Dr. Wimbush, again, the concept of racism, white supremacy, and doing the work of the oppressor for them. And you would tell us about PG County, and so I'm going to let you finish that thought.
Well, I think, I guess anyone who hasn't seen the film, there's going to be some spoilers, I guess, during this discussion. But, Dr. Wilson taught us to deconstruct the use of symbols. It's rare that the white supremacist ever, comes right out and says, this is a symbol of white supremacy. What I'm about to tell you is about white supremacy, and we're going to try to get you to believe it. And see, what Get Out does is Jordan Peele brilliantly, scatters these symbols throughout the film. So the white woman, his girlfriend's mother, hypnotizes him with a silver spoon, going around in a cup. She accidentally actually hypnotizes the black maid by clinking it once, and that's when she spills the iced tea. I think sometimes the black bourgeoisie and I think the other guy who wrote the book about our kind of people say is that we get hypnotized by the silver spoon. That somehow we've transcended race because we got the nice car, the home in the suburbs, the six-figure income. But that's a form of hypnosis or can be a form of hypnosis in the system of white supremacy. And I think what Jordan Peele was pointing out in the film is how be aware of that. Stay woke. And ultimately, in some cases, to get out.
All right. You know what? Before I take some coffee, or people beating me want to know where Dick Gregory's going to be on Saturday. I didn't give out the phone number. It's going to be at Metropolitan United Methodist Church. That's 1121 West Landvale Street. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's in Baltimore, of course. 410-303-4120. That's 410-303-4120. It's going to be there Saturday, starting at 7 o'clock. 800-450-7876. Jean's calling us. Jean's in the district. She's on line one. Jean, you're on with Dr. Wimbush.
Hello, Carl and Dr. Wimbush. I did go to see the movie, Get Out. I saw it advertised on TV, so that sparked me to go see it. I was suspicious when the animal was hit and the police came up.
Yeah.
That's when I said, okay, something getting ready to go down. Then for sure, when they went in the house, I knew that they were about to take him over. I knew that.
Yeah.
Because I read some stuff about black men missing, and a whole lot of them missing right now, and some women too, and that the body parts have been being used.
Yes.
And then when I saw how strange the lady and the man was in the house, I just knew something was getting ready to go down. I didn't know that they were going to do him like that, but thank God he was able to come out of it. Now,
well, Gene, let me interrupt you and ask you this: how soon did you figure it out that it was about body parts?
When I figured that out. When that lady, when they look strange, The maid, and then when he walked outside, I mean, he felt funny. And he went outside, and then the guy came running at him. I knew it was something. I knew something had happened to them that was about to happen to him.
Oh, okay.
Well, sister, you hit on a lot of good points. I mean, I think that one of the things about the body is I get it when I saw all of the black folks having hats on and the sister with a bad wig. I mean, I said they're hiding something on their heads, and I just figured these people have been lobotomized. horror film. And the idea of the black body, and as you say, still being divided up mysteriously. I heard Dick Gregory mention that right a few minutes ago. And, you know, certain of our children who have been killed, missing body parts. But, and as Ta-Nehisi Coates says, that one of the whole strategies of white supremacy since its inception in this country is to control the black body in some form. And so I think, you know, that Peele does this brilliantly in the film. He forces you to look at the black body and to see how white people see our bodies and how we see our bodies. And I mean, that line where he, you know, when the father says Jesse Owens beat him, but he never forgot. And so he steals the body of an athletic black person. And just a few days ago, in fact, I think it was yesterday, we read about this study where they said the perception of black males is that we are bigger, meaner, and stronger than them. That's what white people think about our body. So I think that's a core issue in the film.
And one other thing I'd like to say is Dr. Fuller was on yesterday, and he made the same kind of analogy that you just did about the supposedly upper class people in our communities, and how we are divided by that, by us trying to show them, okay, not us, and I'm just using the analogy, people who think that, trying to show somebody who is less than it in our own community. Well, in this movie, I never thought about him. I didn't know where he was born or came from. I didn't even know this young man who played the part. All I knew was that he was an African person like me. And so I love Sam Jackson. I've seen everything just about that he played in. I just think that him saying that, he should kind of look at it in a different sense of knowing the system. Start to know what the system of racism and white supremacy is. It's not all, but there is a system. It is vividly clear now. And what Dr. Fuller said yesterday and how that operated in the movie and how Sam is looking at, and I love Sam, is looking at the guy in Get Out. All of that is a part of that system of racism and white supremacy. And we have to start looking at that because it's all about money. The bottom line is, and when we die, we're going to be either cremated or in a coffin, and I've never seen any money going with them.
No, you're exactly right. I think the other thing I want to add real quick to that is that if you notice in this film, the N-word is not mentioned one time throughout the entire film. In fact, these are not these Southern white folks with their burned crosses. They're upper class. You know, they would have voted for Obama the third time if he had run type of white people. And so I think that subtlety about how white supremacy can sneak up on us, if you please, is very well portrayed in the film as well.
And did you also notice how he took him around so he could see and vote for Obama? You know, that's their whole game, you know.
Exactly.
And then if we fall into that, then we're lost. We're lost again. And let me ask one question to Carl. This got off before I could ask him this question.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, if I could be wrong, but I think I heard him say at one point on the show that Ben Carson did not do the surgery at Johns Hopkins. Did I hear him say that one time?
Yes, he did. There was a team. It wasn't Ben Carson by himself. There was a team.
Okay, because you know what? When he did the immigrant thing last week, saying that African people were brought here so they could get a better world for their children as immigrants, I was real suspect, because that came back to me. I was suspect as to whether he even did it at all.
No, he was just part of a team. It's somehow, you know, the other guys, they didn't care for the credit that much, but you research it and you'll see he was part of a team, and they make it sound like he was the chief and he did it all by himself. It didn't happen that way. In fact, there's a question how much he really participated in that operation as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, once I heard this, you were giving me more than I thought. Because we were led to believe that he did the operation.
Right, by himself.
He separated the twins.
Right.
So
And you know, an operation like that, it's never done by just one person anyway.
right, I didn't think so. But did he do any separating?
I don't know if he did or how much he did, but he didn't. You know, people are giving him credit for the entire operation. That's not true, and that's what Greg was saying.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I really want to clear that up with him because I wanted to be sure that I heard him say something like that.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, Doc. Back to this is what you mentioned about Ben Carson. How did you process what he said? Was it ignorance, or was he just talking out of the tree, or did he misspeak, or did he know better, or was he trying to impress his friends up there at the White House?
Well, I think that, Carson kind of epitomizes the super slave that is powerful and feels that what he says primarily must please white people before us. White people want to hear that we were immigrants and not enslaved. They want to hear that we all somehow came here the way the Irish and the Jewish person or the Italian came to the United States. We did. So I think that, he's kind of like the lobotomized people in Get Out, and lobotomized in the sense that his black self has been replaced by a white brain, and he thinks that way. Why it happened, I don't know. I had a tremendous, in fact, if I had polled your audience 5 years ago, most of us would have had an incredibly, beautiful opinion of Ben Carson.
Right. Hold that thought right there, Doc. We're going to take a quick break. I'll let you finish on the other side. We got some folks who want to speak to you as well. You too can join the conversation with Dr. Ray Wimbush. Reach out to us at 800 is from Morgan State University, Professor Ray Wimbush. And the number to call to speak to Professor Wimbush is 800-450-7876. And Professor, I'm going to let you finish up what you were saying before we left for the break.
Yeah, very quickly. I think that we see, I always tell people they should take movies of black people rather than snapshots. So if we take a movie of Du Bois, we see the early Du Bois, railing against Marcus Garvey, kind of color struck, especially in 1890s and early teens and stuff like of this last century. But then if you take a movie of his entire life, you see him dying a Pan-Africanist and being buried in Ghana. I think the same thing with Ben Carson. We got to look at his life. I looked at it years ago as a brilliant surgeon from Johns Hopkins who grew up in Detroit and did a lot of bad things before he did a lot of good things. I don't look at him the same now. I think that we got to look at our people, how they evolve through time. People forget that in college or in law school, Clarence Thomas was a member of the Black Panther Party while he was at Yale. Clearly, he has evolved or devolved into something that is quite different from that. So we got to look at our people not as a snapshot. We got to see Malcolm Little, Malcolm X, and El-Haj Malik al-Shabazz, all three of them out. And we got to do that with Ben Carson.
I think it happens to all of us. We're evolving as a people. Because Malcolm said that we're in all as conscious as we were 5 years ago as we are today. So I think I think you're absolutely correct on that.
That's exactly right. So, and again, right. I think we'll keep going into Get Out.
All right, because I got some folks who want to talk to you. 800-450-7876. Go to Philadelphia, line 2. Ralph's waiting for us. Ralph, you're on with Dr. Ray Wimbush.
Hey, good afternoon, Carl, and good afternoon, Dr. Ray. You know what? I agree with you, Dr. Ray. You said something that I believe a lot of people missed in that movie. And I remember this British guy told me in 1995, he said, if you look around and everybody appears to be crazy, everybody appears to be doing the same thing, and society is just lost, he said they're hypnotized. He said the thing about it, people have to be deprogrammed. And I always remember he told me that until this movie. And I said, wow, there it is right there because, it's just like Dr. Ray and I know it's happening you call. The first time you will hear a record, you can't stand that record. It's horrible. after the second or third time, it's one of your favorites. So they've been using this on us for a long time, and that's why when we do see like certain brothers and sisters like Dave Clark, Ben Carson, Kanye West, look at them very carefully and say they're not all together there because they have been programmed by the best, brother. So that movie, I'm telling you, it was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But it just lets me know that movie Frankenstein always been here. It's just that we're now finding out about it. You know what I mean, Dr. Ray?
No, you're absolutely right. And Ralph, dig this. Look at how, remember in the movie where he takes the picture of the brother, his camera flashes, and for that brief moment, the brother, that's when he yells out, get out, get out. And then he uses that run. At the end of the film, he blinked it again to the brother that was ready to kill. And symbolically, again, as Dr. Welding would talk about, that little bit of light, I think if we can share light with our people, knowledge of self, looking at our history and our culture, just briefly, it can momentarily bring us back from the lobotomized position that many of us are already in.
That's correct. I agree with you, man. But this lets you know that even when we look at watch television or these programs, they even tell you television program. There's a lot of people still out here crying and thanking Obama over his 8 years, and I can't understand it. They've been programmed to love that man for something, and I see it like clear as the nose on my face when I look in the mirror. This stuff really exists, and that man from Great Britain, like I said, he was the first one that ever told me that. I always take a closer look at things now, because if I don't like something at first, I'm not going to force myself to like it. If I don't believe something at first, I'm not going to force myself to believe it, because that's when you give that hypnosis some power. So I thought it was an excellent movie. It was weird. It talked about that northern racism where they were they actually was trying to make the man feel welcome, but at the same time wanting what he had and the other black people. So it was just a strange movie, but I'm enjoying the conversation. But that is one point we need to really look at: the programming and the hypnosis. And call if you know any hypnotists out there, please do, because this is what our people are suffering.
And I was going to, Ralph, I thank you for saying that. I was going to say, we are the most programmed people on the planet. Let's be real. We seem to, we blame it on the Middle Passage and then blame it on all kinds of our history and we program. These folks know all about us. You watch television and daytime television where they think that most of us don't have jobs, so they predominate programs and see inappropriate behavior by some of our people. That's the reason why. Figure out that most of us are home watching these shows.
And Carl, they know how to push our buttons. They know how to push our buttons like that silver spoon. We always look at that silver spoon as the carrot dangling in our faces. We desire that silver spoon. We want to be like them. So
exactly. We're under the illusion of inclusion. And many of us buy into that and think we're different from the rest of us and think we just have a little tan. But, and they wonder why can't you be like us? And here we go again, Dr. Wimber should help me out because I don't want to be bashing the bourgeoisie. But many of them feel that they made it and they wonder what's happened to the rest of us. Why couldn't you make it?
Well, but see, that's what they want us to believe, and that's what Ben Carson wanted us to believe last week when he referred to us as immigrants. Voluntarily, we came to the country. I think the black upper middle class, we call them bougie, whatever Nathan here called them the black Anglo-Saxons. I think this idea of arriving somehow, is something that we think that once we get there, somehow we've transcended racism. We see it in a lot of our very wealthy black folks. Not all of them, but many of them. And so, the film itself, shows on the flip side of that, just because you are still in a white supremacist environment, you can't escape it because I think, as a friend of mine always said, we confuse class with caste. You know, many of us are middle class, but our caste in this society is still of black people, and we get all the rights and privileges thereof from white people. I think that's where he goes to, you know, after she hypnotizes him and he goes into that place, they call it the sunken place. I mean, he's helpless. But then he comes out of it and he thinks he's okay. And I think that sometimes we have to check in with ourselves. We have to interrogate what is said about us as well as what we say about ourselves along the way in the system of white supremacy.
And the reason is because many of us are still in that sunken place.
Sure.
That's what it is.
We are. And Carl, you know how he got out of that sunken place? He plugged his ears out.
With time.
Yeah. So, I'll end with that. Thanks a lot, Carl.
All right, thanks, Ralph.
Thank you, Dr. Rainbush.
Yeah, thank you.
800-450-7876. TJ's calling us. He's on line 3. He's in Miami. TJ, you're on with Dr. Wimbush.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. I have a question for you. Who's the director of the movie?
Jordan Peele.
I have not seen him. White guy, black guy?
You black.
I'm black guy? Now, you know, and what we're doing right now is a good thing because we're giving him free advertising, but we also making money for all the theaters, too. But they saving millions and millions of dollars because everybody's talking about the movie. I have not seen the movie, but what I'm saying, when we do this, what we're doing, we still keeping ourselves down because the white man own the movie theater. They own everything. We just give them free advertising. So we go around in circles. You know, we don't own anything. We don't own movie theaters. We don't own nothing. But we just sitting right here. Everybody's talking about it. Go see it. Go see it. Everywhere I go, everybody's telling me to go see it. I'm like, why should I go spend my money? We're trying to get our money in our own community. But we're not doing any better.
But I think you illustrate the point. I mean, we're speaking English right now, and we know that this is not our native tongue if we go back far enough. I think, as Mr. Fuller always says, we live in a compensatory manner in the system of white supremacy. It's how much we are compensating that is what we need to judge by. So you're right. We're making the theaters rich. We're also making people feel a little bit more, richer in order to hopefully make some more films like this about race. So I think that we have to understand how we are compensating in the system of white supremacy. And when we do it too much, as far as I'm concerned, like a Ben Carson, we does damage to our community.
You're right, but the thing about it, what Ben Carson said, Obama said it too. And I'm not against Obama, and I'm not with Carson, but Obama said the exact same thing. Google it. He said it.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. The point I'm trying to make is that we are making these people rich. Like right now, we're talking about this movie. And that's good we're doing it for the brother. I'm with that 100%. We're making these people rich. They sitting there laughing. Because they don't have to advertise this. And we doing it ourselves. Everywhere I go, all black people talking about it. Oh, go see the movie. Go see the movie. In the AMC, they loving it. And we see
hang on a second, TJ. We got TJ, hang on a second. If you can, we got to take a quick break here. We got to check the traffic and weather for our friends in the DMV. 400-450-7876 to speak to Dr. Wimbush. And TJ, I thank you for your contribution, for your call. But before we take another call for you, Dr. Wimbush, a tweeter wanted to know about the cereal and the white milk, and the separated, and the song they played. What was the significance of that?
Well, it's interesting. When I eat my cereal, I put soy milk or almond milk onto the cereal. And interesting, she was eating Fruit Loops, which is all different kind of colors. And she separated. And it's against the backdrop of the men that she had seduced into coming into her compound, as well as she was looking for the next one, who I believe was an athlete. So the separation says, look, I'm keeping my milk, my white self, separated from these so-called people of color, specifically black folks and stuff. So, it's so many symbols in the film. Notice when the brother goes into the box in her closet, the box is red, just as all of the people in that pants, whatever. But Chris only had a blue on. And so there's a lot of symbolism in there. The Fruit Loops, I think, just shows that many of the people of color are just simply unaware. I mean, Fruit Loops, even the name itself has always been kind of a joke among cereals. And she keeps it separate. She doesn't pour the milk onto the Fruit Loops. She drinks the milk by itself, and again, lets the Fruit Loops kind of snacking on them while she's doing her stuff. And in the background, forget the name of what's the name of that song that they're playing in the background? I forget. But it's symbolic. The words themselves are very symbolic while she's doing that.
Yeah, I've got the song myself. Maybe somebody else who saw it will remind us. 800-450-7876. Let's go to line 4 down in Virginia. Miss Louise is waiting for us. Miss Louise, you're on with Dr. Wimbush.
Yes, good afternoon to both of you, especially to Mr. Nelson there. Dr. Wimbush, I believe it is. Am I correct? Okay. I would like to. I did not see the movie, but I did read something about the. I think the producer or the person that wrote the movie that he was married to a white lady. Am I correct?
He is, and his mother is white.
Okay. You know what? When I read that, and I want to state this quickly because I want to get to Samuel Jackson, but when I read that, I said, well, maybe he's trying to tell us something that he learned through their culture. We never know why he wrote this in the manner that he did, because it appears to me, just a little tad bit that I read in the trailer that I saw. My nephew played it online for me. I said, they pick up a whole lot from our culture, and we pick up a lot from theirs about the way that they think about us, because if you're sleeping with the enemy, you're going to hear something from the enemy in the wee hours of the night. Now, and when I think of Samuel Jackson and his comments, the night of the Oscars, when Moonlight won, Samuel Jackson cried. He had, because the camera only showed it for a flicker of a second or two, but he had tears in his eyes. And I was trying to figure out, was that the emotions of a black male seeing that a picture about homosexuality and the finding of black identity was elevated over a positive black male role. I would, Mr. Nelson, I can't dictate who you should have on as your guest, but I would love to hear from Mr. Jackson or the community to try to really get his deep inner feelings. And the last thing that I want to say, and I would like for you to comment on this, Dr. Wimbush. I hope I get your name correctly. I don't want to mispronounce it. But when we talk about the missing, the hundreds of black people that are missing, think about all the technology that we have that surrounds us. Because everything that we have dictates our location. I tell my family, my nephews, my Gregs, and my family, when they go out, I say, do not turn your iPhone on location, or do not call me from a certain area, because everything in our homes gives location, and by the fact that they give location, they know when you are by yourself and at what point and where. And this could be why they target, why they market all of this technology to us, even in our homes with the security systems. They know exactly. They don't wait till a burglar comes to turn it on. They know exactly what you're doing, when, how, and where. Because all you have to do is make the analogy of back in the day and now. Back in the day, we weren't missing. We didn't come up missing. But now, we're all over the place. And I would like for you to comment on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Miss Louise.
Ms. Louise, that was just all of that is all good. I mean, real quick, you're absolutely right about privacy. There's an article that was written about 10 years ago called "With the Birth of the Internet Came the Death of Privacy." And we see that. We see that in the recently released stuff about the CIA, the location stuff. I don't know how much of what we are saying, doing, texting emailing, Facebooking, and all of this stuff, I'm sure that the vast majority of it is stored someplace. Insofar as Jordan Peele being married to a white woman and his mother being white, I mean, there's been some black psychologists in the social media who have said that this film may be an unconscious discussion of his own situation. We don't know that. I'm not in Jordan Peele's mind, but it is interesting that the key protagonist, white protagonist in this film, is his girlfriend, and the mother, and her mother. So, it's all of that is, is subject to psychoanalysis or whatever, but it's interesting. And as far as, Sam Jackson, I think one thing that was missed at the Oscars real quick was how Denzel responded when Casey Affleck won Best Oscar. Look, I saw both of those films. I'm not talking. Manchester by the Sea was the most boring film that I saw during 2015, and one of the greatest films I saw during 2016, I'm sorry, was Fences. And I think that, Denzel Grimace spoke tons of words. Samuel L. Jackson's Tears and Moonlight, I'm not sure about. I don't know what that was all about. Maybe Carl can get him there and ask him directly. We'll see.
Right. I'll reach out to him. I have the producers reach out to him. Another thing I want to point out, too, the girlfriend was a daughter of Brian Williams from NBC News. So that was interesting as well. That she played, that's his daughter.
I did not know that.
He played the girlfriend, Chris's girlfriend in the movie. 800-450-7876 to speak to Dr. Wimbush. Just go to line 2. Homer is calling us. Homer's in Atlanta. Homer, you're on with Dr. Wimbush.
Hey, Dr. Wimbush. How you doing, Carl?
Hey, man.
Hey, enjoying the conversation. One of the things that when you, I think the previous caller had mentioned about the hypnosis, what I found that also hypnotizes black men is what we call trap music. If you actually really pay attention to what's classified as trap music, right? It has very, very deep bass that you will also hear in those same frequencies you will hear in a horror film, that rumble in the background, right? And then the higher frequencies, right, of the, I guess you can call it the melody. It took me a while to pick it up, but they're actually from horror movies.
They are.
They're from horror
movies. Let me jump in here for a second, Homer. Have you heard Dr. Leonard Horowitz?
Yeah. No, I mean, I know who he is, but I don't really know.
Okay, because he's done a lot of study into those different beats, because he says that you're talking about the music can hypnotize you, and the music can make you be angry, and this is what a lot of the music he's saying that our young people are playing, and sometimes they don't go into the studio with that, and it's remixed, and it comes out that way. So when he reaches the ears, everybody's angry and mad at each other because of the frequency in which it's on. So if you get a chance, and those people who are listening who haven't heard Dr. Horowitz, he was here about a couple of weeks ago. Just Google his name, Leonard Horowitz. He's based in Hawaii, and you'll see all of that stuff come up.
Yeah, well, it would make sense, because if you, I live in Atlanta, so recently we've had a few crimes with dealing with, young, teenagers, 15, 14, 16, and these are, some pretty horrific crimes, but the music that they listen to, and trust me, I grew up on hip-hop, so I try not to knock hip-hop because I grew up on it, but, this seems to be something different than what I was listening to back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, real quick, there's another book by Daniel Levitin called This Is Your Brand on Music. I've read it. If you get a chance, read that. I mean, music does things to us that we aren't often aware of. There's more than a coincidence that a drum is always used, regardless of culture, when entering into battle, like in a war. It appeals to a certain part of the psyche and stuff like that. And I think sometimes we underestimate that. I had the privilege a few years ago, real quick, to speak to Chuck Jackson. He was the big R&B star back in the 60s. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, Ray, music turns around in the African community. He said black community once every 8 or 9 years. So we had disco, R&B, house, all of it. But he said hip-hop has stayed in our community long answer is that he thinks it's programmed to teach our people to be and act a certain way, and he feels it has to do with violence. I love hip hop, would never condemn it, but some of it, just like some other music, is not good for our children. It just, some of it is.
All right, I think he left us. Anyway.
No.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and the other thing I would add on to that is that when it comes to how the marijuana, because the marijuana, my dad or your dad used to smoke back in the 60s and 70s, and the same marijuana they smoke now. And then when they talked about going to the sunken place, when I tied in the frequency of the trap music with the low and the horror film of the high, and then you smoke the marijuana they smoke today, which I don't believe is marijuana,